Hey there everyone, Lord Fidget here with another episode of Ether Raids gameplay. This time we are back in Light Season, kicking things off with the what do I call this team? Do I call this a Byleth team? I don't know. It features Byleth, sorta, but it also features Idun and Tana. Tana's actually a really important piece too, even though she's not really one of the primary fighters. Obviously, the idea here is Byleth handles 2 range threats, Idun handles 1 range threats with near save, and Tana helps move my units around, mostly for Idun's low armor mobility, but also helps with, as you saw, getting Byleth in and out of spaces that she wouldn't otherwise be able to reach. The Idun is speed stacked because I felt like it. And yeah, that's really the idea. I deployed this team because I really couldn't figure out a good way to have the Caeda team deal with this map, with the with Hel and Seliph both having the miracle effects on their weapons, making it pretty difficult to get a Gale Force initiation going since the enemies don't go down, and it's just a hassle to deal with. So yeah, I sent this team in. It did pretty well. I'm quite happy with its first ever outing. Yes, so not a whole lot to talk about anymore. Idun was actually able to take out the Niffle, and then I use a combination of Byleth and Uller to take out the Medeus to end the map. For match number 2, I went back to my regularly scheduled Caeda Gale Force clears. I initially devised a plan where I would have Caeda Sea Blossom pair take out the Camus, and then Caeda Talos' Heart would fight Note, and then I believe also, fight Triandra, do not move with Canto, and then Azura could refresh her from Note's space, and then she could move to trap the Happy and the Hilda. I knew I had to wait a turn because the Note had odd Death Wave. I didn't want that active. But I forgot to move Uller out of the way, and Uller is in range of the attack speed menace. What I ended up eventually doing was, you know what, Azura can take out Note, and Caeda was actually able to take down the Camus, so I had her do that, and then with Canto, I had her just move in to complete the trap anyway. So Caeda's Talos' Heart, I imagine, took a little bit more damage from Camus than she would have from Note, but all in all, it didn't really matter, and I was able to finish off the enemies on the next turn. Uller even got to take out the Fjord, which was pretty funny. In match number 3, I deployed the Caeda team again into this. I believe this is a 7th slot trap. I actually messed this one up. I was placing Caeda where I did to try and prevent Corrin from cantoing to the right after providing the rally. That's the only space where she would have been able to get a refresh from Triandra. But I forgot that Yuri would gain an extra point of movement. Well, I didn't forget. I kind of tunnel visioned on the fact that it would cause his range to overlap with Corrin's on the left, completely forgetting that it would also extend on the right. So that was quite a mistake there. Fortunately, I was able to recover, and I actually moved my units around in such a way as to try and take attacks from refreshers as much as possible. That put me in a bit of a tough spot where I had to take out the Medeus, and I also had to get rid of the Crom, which was kind of interesting. Fortunately, Caeda was able to actually land a 2H KO, and then after that, it's just curtains for the enemy team. There's nothing more they can do. All of their threats are neutralized, and Triandra is not in range to take out anybody. So that was the map. Very, very interesting map. Trying to clear it after making that initial turn 1 mess up, but it worked out in the end. For match number 4, I deployed the Caeda team again into this prison setup. I took full advantage of the fact that there's a big fat structure barrier keeping the enemy team away from the left-hand side of the map. I just walked right up there, broke a bunch of structures, and had Uller snipe stuff from over the wall. I believe on turn, or whatever turn's coming up here, is it 3 maybe? Whichever turn it is, I had Uller take out both Aversa and Morgan, and then the enemies were just kind of forced to advance through that narrow opening in column number 5. So I was actually anticipating Medeus would get a refresh. He did. But then I wasn't expecting him to reposition Triandra. That's the part that I was not anticipating. I thought he would just move straight up. But because Peony was actually able to threaten Triandra, quote unquote threaten, because Peony does not exactly. She doesn't exactly pose that big of a threat, being at color disadvantage and not really having good offensive stats. But that still prompted Medeas to reposition her straight down, which is a tad unusual, but that was the quote-unquote safer space. Eventually, I was able to have the Medeas taken out, and despite the fact the enemies went on a pretty big positioning spree, I was able to clear out the map in time with, I believe I had Uller finish it off. For match number 5, I deployed the Caeda team against this map that looks like a 7-slot trap, and it probably is. I assumed that the trap was Tethys refreshes Ishtar, then gets a rally from Sigurd, who gets a refresh from Eldigan, and so on and so forth. But actually what ended up happening is Eldigan provided the refresh to Ishtar, and I'm actually going to go ahead and pause this real quick, and let me also put up the priority rules for who gets to provide a refresh when there's a tie, because I kind of want to discuss what's going on here. Now, I'm used to having the priority be decided by the distance check, which is which of the enemies is furthest away from my team. And in this case, it kind of looks like Ishtar, Tethys should win that. It kind of looks like she is 6 spaces away from Caeda, whereas Eldigan is 5 spaces away from, well, my other Caeda Sea Blossom pair. However, what I have noticed, and also what I had completely forgotten about prior to just that moment when Eldigan provided the refresh, the game seems to take Pathfinder into account when calculating that distance. So, despite the fact that it looks like Tethys' distance calc is 6 and Eldigan's is 5, they're actually both 5. So, the priority for who gets to provide the refresh then falls to slot order, which apparently Eldigan wins. So that's what ended up going on with that refresh. I found that completely mystifying for a bit before I remembered about the Pathfinder thing. That was something I ran into many, many months ago in another light season match. Something else happened that made me realize what was going on. It's very strange. So that was interesting. I had actually counted on Tethys exposing herself there, but she didn't end up doing it. So I did have to modify my strategy from a hit and run to full-on Gale Force and Trap. So let me go ahead and let this keep running. I did end up breaking the healing tower. And the objective, after I realized Tethys wasn't just going to jump out and say, here, come kill me, was to go ahead and take out everybody except for the Tethys, and then trap the Tethys so I could go grab the Ether Structures. Which was a little interesting. I had to move my refreshers around a little bit so I didn't have Azura burning her refresh too early. And pretty normal stuff. Caeda initiating on the note, and Azura was able to two-shot the Ishtar. She was fortunately bulky enough to not get taken out immediately. And with Katria gone, I was able to activate Caeda Sea Blossom Pair's Harmonize skill. And from there, that's pretty much a wrap. I didn't necessarily need to get Caeda Sea Blossom Pair out of range of Tethys. Tethys was heavily def stacked, probably to deal with Milla's, but I did it anyway. In match number 6, I deployed the Caeda team again against whatever you call this kind of map. I don't know. I guess you can call it, it's kind of prison-ish. Not crazy so, but a little bit. I was able to take out the Medeas and the Note and execute a trap on the rest of the units. Well, bar Edelgard, who was trapped by the map's designer, not me. And then I just took out the 2 range units and ran away, basically. A trap strategy that evolved into a hit and run, which is kind of unusual, but every now and then it does come up. After that, I think Caeda Sea Blossom Pair was actually able to take out both of the blue enemies. Yeah. And then I just needed to grab the Ether Structures before taking out the Edelgard. I believe I was able to have Uller take care of the Edelgard once all was said and done. Although I guess I did need to get some buffs in play. For match number 7, I'm playing this at normal speed so we can all appreciate this map's design. I think that was pretty interesting. I actually messed this up. I had planned to tank a hit from Bernadetta on the enemy phase with Caeda, Talus's Heart, and then I figured I could get some sort of Gale Force counterstrike going on the subsequent turn. What I didn't count on is that the dogger on the right has reciprocal aid, and the dogger on the left is outside of the range of the healing tower. So, after Bernadetta attacked, the left dogger got a reciprocal aid from the right dogger, and that enabled Catria to Pathfinder through, provide a swap, and then left-hand dogger came in with a triangle attack. So that was crazy. I did not even see that coming. So very well played. I surrendered that match. In match number 8, I deployed the Caeda team against this dragon-heavy prison setup. A bit of a 7th slot trap here, sorta, kinda, but not really. Ninian does provide a refresh to Tiki, but she doesn't really increase her threat range like at all. So, or the overall threat range of the map, rather. So I was able to take out the Ninian since she did just go ahead and expose herself. And now the last movement wild card is what I like to call it, is the Catria, who can provide warp power to her allies. So I just continued with my Gale Forcing spree. I had Caeda actually take down the legendary Tiki, which she was able to do thanks to armor effectiveness. And then she was also able to handle both Deirdre and afterwards the Catria. And fortunately, I was able to get my team out to safety with a properly ordered breakage of structures and refreshing and all that stuff. After that, it's pretty easy cleanup. Niffle obviously is trapped behind the forest tiles and the structures that the enemy themselves placed. She will actually now be moving towards Azura and Caeda, but on the previous turn, she just was not able to do that. Of course, that didn't really help her in the end. For match number 9, I deployed the Caeda team once more into this kind of space oppression-y setup, kind of prison-y too, if I'm being honest. I used the standard Gale Force and Trap strategy. Fortunately, Lysithia's whatever trace she has, I think it's AR Far Trace, that enabled Azura to land a 2-hit KO instead of a 1-hit KO. And then with the duo hindrance to structure disabled, I was able to get an extra action onto Peony, who refreshed Caeda so she could take out Selena. And of course, after that, it's just a matter of grabbing the ether structures before finishing off the map. I was able to take advantage of Ash's warp power to give Uller the movement she needed to just jump over that row, or column rather, of lava tiles. And then I was able to finish the map pretty easily afterward. And that is it. I hope you all enjoyed this episode of EtherRaid's gameplay. I'm still in a bit of disbelief about that reciprocal aid into Pathfinder Catria swap tactic that got pulled off against me in match number 7. I never even saw that coming, so again, hats off to that map designer for throwing that in there. Next week, I do plan on having a video up for the ongoing Astra season, so do look forward to that. And as always, thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you next time.